Welcome to Spiritual Psychology. My name's Renee LaValle McKenna, and I bring my 30-plus years as a recovering addict and ex-crazy person turned therapist and shamanic healer to bring you snackable teachings on spirituality, psychology, and all things personal growth. And today I want to talk about why we all suck at receiving and why the ability to receive is so important. Now, there are givers and there are takers in the world. And that's kind of a continuum, and most of us fall somewhere in the middle. And we may be good at receiving in certain areas of our life, and we may be good at giving in certain areas of our life. And some people fall to the extreme of mostly giving, and some people fall to the other end of mostly receiving or taking. And life is a breathing in and breathing out process. And in order to be healthy and fully functioning, it's imperative to be able to breathe in and breathe out. And just like what happens in breathing, giving and receiving connects us with the larger consciousness system. Just like when we breathe in the oxygen produced by plants on land and in the oceans is part of a larger ecosystem where we metabolize the oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide that then feeds those plants. Energetically, our ability to functionally give and receive is part of the transpersonal ecosystem, whether we're aware of it or not. And that particular metaphor is close to my heart because my mother died of COPD, what they used to call emphysema. She was a lifelong smoker of unfiltered Lucky Strike cigarettes. Was her only noticeable vice, although I could give you a long list of other ones. And she was unable to breathe in or to breathe out effectively. And she had tremendous dysfunction with giving and receiving in a healthy way. And it's a whole fascinating study, somatic psychology, looking at the correlations with our physical dysfunction or health, and how it correlates with our emotional, psycho-spiritual, and relational patterns. One of my favorite books and a great introduction to this idea of the body-mind-spirit connection is by a medical intuitive named Caroline Myss, M-Y-S-S, and her book Anatomy of the Spirit. It correlates the chakras in our body and the different body functions or systems that are associated with those chakras, and she compares them with the 7 sacraments of Christianity and the Sephirot of Kabbalah, the mystical aspect of Judaism. I'm endlessly fascinated by the complex web and interrelationship of all things. And looking at our own relationship with the cycle of giving and receiving can give us a lot of information about ourselves, our deeper motivations, and where we need to grow. And for myself, I used to totally suck at receiving. It's actually not true anymore, happy to report, and I have a pretty functional balance for the most part of inflow and outflow, of being able to receive nourishment physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, socially, sexually. And that nourishment allows me to then produce in a healthy and sustainable and high-functioning way in the world. But that took a long time and a lot of therapy and a lot of work to become vulnerable, open, and receptive, which could be seen as feminine qualities. Again, I love how the body and the principles and archetypes all mirror each other. That in the creative process, the feminine receives the masculine into her, the masculine gives to her, and then she creates from that which is given, so that then she can birth things into the world. And if we aren't able to receive in a healthy, dynamic way, our ability to produce will be dysfunctional. And even though I'm female, I was oriented in a very masculine way. Feeling like I had to do everything myself, unable to ask for help, and completely unfamiliar with the level of vulnerability and openness necessary for genuine receiving. In fact, I saw vulnerability as a weakness. And today I understand it as a tremendous strength, flexibility, fluidity, openness, trust. And not just trust that whatever comes to me is trustworthy, because I need to be very discerning about what I receive, but trust in my own resilience and in the process of opening myself to receive love, help, resources, intimate connection, that I am strengthened by that opening process and changed by it. Being receptive requires us to not be in control and brings us face to face with our own ideas of worthiness. And this dilemma of worthiness or unworthiness is deeply rooted in the human psyche. In fact, the story of Adam and Eve in Genesis in the Bible could be seen as an attempt at explaining this experience of unworthiness and this conundrum of feeling separate from God or Eden. A side note on discernment in receiving, I received a message on Instagram this morning from this very attractive younger man that said, "Me like you a lot. Me take care of you. Give me a try." I am Utah, USA, to which I promptly replied, "I'm good, thanks," and blocked it, because there are those who would try to give to us just so that they can take. And there's a big difference between taking and receiving. Taking is out of integrity. I was a thief for a really long time. Steal from stores, I'd steal your boyfriend, because I didn't believe that I was worthy of receiving in an integritous way. I didn't believe the universe would give to me, and so I had to steal. And certainly there are those who take from a place of selfishness, entitlement, narcissism, a power imbalance in the other direction that feels oppression, colonialism, slavery, and harming others for our own benefit. Bullying is a form of stealing, when we take another person's life energy to feed ourselves at their expense. And so growing in our ability to receive graciously and openly can often show us fairly quickly where we're over-defended or out of integrity. And it's not always conscious. I have a client I've been working with for a while, a musician, and he's always wanted to make money from his music, be able to leave his job as a carpenter. And some momentum has really started to happen. There was a couple agents interested in using some of the stuff they've produced, and he suddenly got this kind of non-specific set of physical symptoms that was stopping his ability to work and shut down the music altogether. And he reported that this has happened on and off throughout his life, and they've never been able to figure out what it is. And he said, "I wonder if I'm sabotaging myself, because although it feels really good when people like my music and want to pay me for it, I'm really terrified of being seen, of being bigger and out in the world. Feels really scary." And again, like the breathing in and breathing out, when we receive, it does call us to be fully seen, to be right-sized in the world. Like a cell that's malnourished or dehydrated, has an influx of water and nutrients and puffs back up to its healthy size. And most of us play too small. And I believe that in the larger consciousness system, in the transpersonal realms, we don't get away with anything. The truth works itself out, maybe over lifetimes, but stealing and cheating actually keep us small in the eyes of the universe. I've seen it a lot in people that make money in illicit ways: drugs, gambling, prostitution, theft. I call it dirty money, because when you make $100,000 on a dope deal, it's very different than if you make $100,000 at your job. Not only will the IRS want to know where that money came from that you just bought that house with. My father worked for the IRS. That was how they caught most criminals, was tax evasion. And I don't know if I've ever seen anybody use dope money in a constructive, sustainable way. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's not my experience. That when we earn something and feel worthy of it, it's much more nourishing, productive, and sustainable, encouraging even in our life. And when we steal or manipulate, try to evade the spiritual laws, which I care much more about than human laws, what we get when we take in those ways that are out of integrity has much less value, and it degrades our own value. And so in order to receive in a healthy way, we need to be healthy. We need to live and act in ways that create worthiness so that we can openly and vulnerably and deeply receive and be nourished by the abundance of the infinitely creative, interactive life force that we are all a part of. And so I encourage you to look at the giving, receiving continuum in your own life. Do you give too much or take too much? And see if you can notice where you are being called to grow in healthy balance of breathing in and breathing out. And what do you breathe in and what do you breathe out in your life? Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, consider sharing it with a friend. Like, subscribe, or leave me a good review. I appreciate all the generous support in allowing me to continue to produce free content. You can check out my link on Patreon in the show notes if you'd like to become a supporter. I'm taking applications for my inner child group that I'm going to start in early 2022. If you're interested in doing some deeper, really powerful, transformative healing work around trauma and unresolved emotional issues, inner child work is the most direct method that I know for gentle and immediate shifting and change in a positive way. If you want to find out more about that, shoot me an email, info@reneemckenna.com. You can also reach out if you are interested in learning more about my mentorship program or how a block of spiritual psychology work might benefit you. I did a free mini workshop on inner child work on Instagram this week. You can check out the video feed. It includes a guided meditation to try some inner child work for yourself. It's on my Instagram page @ReneeLaValley-McKenna. And we're going to be doing some webinars and other free offerings to go with our open door digital course, Intro to Shamanism, Lower World. Shamanism is a direct, really incredible tool for working with nature and our own empowerment and healing. Plans are in the work to start a spiritual practice support group on Facebook. If you want to find out more about that digital course, there's a link in the show notes. You can check out the Open Door Instagram page @opendoor_growth. Lots of new and exciting offerings coming in 2022. I'll keep you posted. Blessings on your path until we meet again. This is Renee LaValley-McKenna for Spiritual Psychology.